Hey guys, Mr. Mini Painter here, and today we are painting everybody's favorite bad guy from the Harry Potter movies, Lord Voldemort. First off, if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel, leave a comment below, I'd love to hear from you. And next I'll show you how I painted this guy. First I primed him in a gray primer. And then we're starting with the skin tones, and for a base color I'm using Cadian Flesh Tone. It's kind of a human flesh tone, and let's face it, at one point he was sort of a human, right? But we're gonna gray him down a little bit. And for that I'm adding rock-hard flesh. A pure layer of rock-hard flesh on the skin, on the majority of the skin actually, leaving the Cadian flesh tone as the shaded color in between. Seems a bit weird maybe, but we'll get there in the end. I'm gonna show you how I did it. So I painted most of the face with the rock-hard flesh over the Cadian flesh tone, but thinned the paint down quite a bit, so the color of the Cadian flesh tone is shining through a little bit, giving a bit of a blotchy look, which resembles the Voldemort's face. He is kind of unhealthy looking. To add to that effect, I'm adding Carbro Crimson to the skin, which kind of blends with the Cadian flesh tone and rock-hard flesh we used before, and gives it a nice, eerie, dark, unhealthy look. Next, I'm taking the highlight a step further with Palette Witch Flesh mixed into the rock-hard flesh for some extreme highlights. So the knuckles, top of the fingers, tip of the nose, as far as you got any nose, the chin, cheekbones, etc. Now in this process I left the eye sockets nice and dark so I can paint in the eyes with some Palette Witch Flesh and leaving the surrounding eye sockets dark with the Carbro Crimson wash. Next I painted in some pupils with Abaddon Black, and we've got these nice mean eyes. Onto the cloak. The inner cloak I painted with a mixture of Lupercal Green and Deathcore Drab, giving it a kind of bright green look, which is nearly the color I want, but we're gonna take that a few steps further along the process, of course. The outer cloak I painted with a mixture of Lupercal Green and Abaddon Black, so that the tones are more or less the same, but you get a different kind of, well, what is it? Green? Bluish green? So when finished you have something like this, which looks pretty amazing already, but it's just the base colors. So of course we're gonna take it further. And as you might have noticed, I forgot to paint his feet. I'm gonna do that later on. Now with pure Lupercal Green, I'm giving the outer cloak some edge highlights. You can go fairly wide because we're going to take that a step further along in the process. So focus on the raised areas, etc. For the inner cloak I'm using Cabalite Green, which is a nice addition to the color we used before. I painted all the folds and wrinkles and highlighted everything. In the final stage we're going to add some object source lighting, some OSL from the spell he is casting, but for now we're gonna paint the cloak evenly. I'm using a dry brush to kind of blend those colors together, and I'm using the same color on the outer cloak as well to kind of bring those two colors together. Next up, I mixed some Palette Witch Flesh into the Cabalite Green for some extreme highlights, and for this I only focused on the very small edges and mostly the top of the cloak. The raised areas, the ones that would reflect the most light, they deserve a special extra highlight. Make that as thin as possible. Next up is the wand. I'm using Screaming Skull for that. It's kind of a bone wand, and the Screaming Skull I painted as a base tone, and next I shaded that with some Agrax Earthshade. After which you can re-highlight it with the same Screamer Skull if you want, just to pick out some of those details. The spell he's casting I painted with Grey Seer, or any kind of white or very light grey if you want, as we're going to be using a contrast paint over it. So you want a bright area to have that nice bright spell effect. Here you can see that I found my mistake of painting, or actually not painting, the feet, and I did those in the same colors I used as the hands and face. Now, Tesseract's Glow, what a magical paint that is. It's not really a contrast paint though, it's a technical paint, is what it's called, but it works more or less the same as a contrast paint, leaving some nice dark and bright areas. And I really love the brightness of this color. And for that you need that bright undertone. I'm going to be adding some white details with pure white Scar, as if it were extreme pure raw energy he is shooting from his wand, just to have a little effect. Kind of dry brush it onward with the side of your brush. You can use an old brush to do so, just adds to the effect. And next we're going to use the same white or gray if you have it to add some bright details for the OSL we are going to be painting. On the parts where the light would bounce off the most, you want the reflection to be the brightest, so we have to have a lighter undertone than the color we painted before. So for this part I'm focusing on the arm and the right side of his face, brightening that up a little bit so that the reflection is really bright, which adds to the general effect of the illusion of having a light source. I'm also using that on the side of the cloak and a little bit on the right side of his inner cloak, so his leg, etc. Next, Tesseract Glow again on the parts that we have brightened up before. And you can see the effect starting immediately. You get some nice reflections, leave some of those darker shaded areas in the folds behind where the light would normally reach. But realize that it's a powerful light source, so it's emanating light all around. In this process I found that I had made the face a bit too bright maybe, so I darkened it down by adding some rock art flesh again and kind of blend it with the previous tone. You can do so by mixing it with some water, so you kind of bring those two colors together. I painted the teeth with Palette Witch Flesh. There is some teeth showing, and I added a little bit of shade in there with Null Oil so that the teeth really stand out from his mouth. And next is the base, which we're also going to be adding the light source to. I painted the base with Steel Legion Drab. Be very careful around those feet. And we're going to be adding the same light source as we did before. So make sure you let that dry. And to also give that the same illusion of light, we're going to be brightening up the front of the base with some Grey Seer. I focused on where that light would hit the most, which is in the length of his right arm. So that part would be brighter than the back side of the base. And for that I used some Grey Seer as well. The rest I shaded with Agrax Earthshade, and I'm focusing on a strong Agrax Earthshade on the back of the base, so the furthest away from the light. And I added the same Agrax Earthshade but thinned down with water for the front, so you get some shades but less strong. Tesseract Glow again on the front of the base, a little bit on his foot. And I used the same technique by adding some water and thinning it down for the back of the base, so you can kind of let that light source fade away. So add some water and kind of smear it to the back. And that's it. Lord Voldemort. There he is in all his awesomeness. I think he looks really great. I love how he turned out, and he's a nice addition to my Harry Potter game, Wizarding Duels. I hope this video was of any help to you guys, and if it was, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll react to every response you give. Please consider subscribing to the channel, because I'll be making a lot more videos, and I'll keep you posted whenever a new one hits the channel. For now, thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear from you in the future, and see you in the next video. Bye bye!